Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Precipitate Gold Corp. Before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. If you are interested in scheduling a meeting with Precipitate Gold, please click on the Meetings tab found on the left navigation bar. You will be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Jeff Wilson, President, CEO, and Director of Precipitate Gold Corp, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol PREIF and on the TSXV under the symbol PRG. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate the introduction, and thanks everyone for being here and attending and giving me the opportunity to present Precipitate Gold. As you can see from the opening slide here, we are a junior exploration company focused on district-scale gold and copper camps in Newfoundland, Canada, and the Dominican Republic. First slide here, of course, is a forward-looking statement, ensuring that everyone does their own due diligence before investing. So the corporate highlights of the company here. One key issue in the difficult markets that we've been having here in the junior space over the last several months is that we've got $7 million in working capital. That's $7 million unallocated hard dollar cash. We've got 3 drill-ready projects in the Dominican Republic. Multiple of those are advanced to a drill-ready stage. We've got an earn-in agreement with one of the biggest gold mining companies in the world, Barrick, who are spending money on one of our Dominican assets for a right to earn a 70% interest in a project that surrounds one of their largest gold mining operations. We just completed a drill program at our Newfoundland project called Motherlode, and assays for that drill program will be coming out, we expect, in Q1 of next year. And with the cash that we have on hand, we're spending a significant amount of our time looking at new possible acquisitions and M&A scenarios to leverage that cash along with our current portfolio for growth. A quick snapshot of the capital structure of the company. We've got about 130 million shares issued and outstanding, 153 fully diluted. As you can see here, we're sitting on a market cap of just under or around $10 million. Given our cash position of just over 7 or 7.5 million, you can see we're trading at somewhere pretty close to cash at present and not getting a lot of value for our assets in the portfolio. So we see this as a real opportunity for investors to look at a company that's cashed up and ready to move forward without the need to do dilutive financings in the near term. Barrick, as I said, is a partner on one of our assets and also owns a little under 10% of the company, as well as management and insiders are sitting at 6%. Strong management team. Any junior company, you really are betting on the jockey. We believe we've got a really sound and balanced board and management team. I won't go through everybody's CV here, but suffice it to say that many of our team members have made discoveries in the past, turned those discoveries into buyouts and acquisitions by mid-tier and major companies, and there's a real track record here for finding good projects that the majors want to have. We'll start with our Dominican assets, and the red dots here on the map indicate our 3 Dominican land holdings or project holdings. You can see here that we have a project called Ponton on the eastern side. On the west, we've got our Juan de Herrera, and then in the central part of the country, we've got our Pueblo Grande project, which is situated immediately adjacent to, as I mentioned before, one of the largest gold mines on the planet, Barrick's Pueblo Viejo. If you don't know what Pueblo Viejo is or how significant it is, and to be surrounding it becomes quite meaningful when you take a look at this photograph. This is a picture of the Pueblo Viejo mine operated by Barrick. As I said, this is one of the top mining operations in the world. Over 13 million ounces of gold, 74 million ounces of silver, and 300 million pounds of copper. Annual production back in 2018 was over 500,000 ounces per year. This project has had about $4.5 billion invested in it. And what's significant now, and will be a part of the story going forward here, is that Barrick is indicating that they intend to expand the project with an additional $1 billion infrastructure investment. This is the single largest contributor to the Dominican Republic's economy and indicates just how important mining is to the Dominican Republic. So if anybody doesn't know or appreciate how important mining is to the Dominican Republic and its economy, this project is an indicator of just how critical it is. So this map shows, you can see here that the Pueblo Viejo mine is in that central white portion of the map image. Our land package, the Pueblo Grande project, is in yellow. As you can see, we're not just near Pueblo Viejo, we surround it on three sides, right up against the concession boundaries. After we acquired this project in 2019, Barrick entered into an earn-in agreement with us in 2020, whereby they agreed to spend $10 million US over 6 years and produce a pre-feasibility study at the end of that 6-year term in order to receive or earn a 70% interest in the project. We're about 2 years into this earn-in agreement. Barrick has spent a little north of $2 million US to date, including one drill program, and are moving towards the second threshold, which will be another $1.5 million by April of next year. So we're happy with the fact that this project is seeing a significant expenditure. It's being operated by one of the largest gold miners in the world, and allowing us in challenging capital markets to see a project continue to advance, and a project that has the potential to be an add-on or tie-on to one of the biggest mining operations in the world. Significant note here is part of the reason why we are sitting on such a substantial cash position right now is that during the earn-in agreement with Barrick back in May of this year, we announced that Barrick had requested the opportunity to extract a couple of small pieces of ground out of the earn-in and put it 100% into Barrick, not for mineralization, but for infrastructure purposes, tailings facilities. And this is essentially sterilized ground that we knew had no meaningful mineralization. And so we negotiated terms whereby Barrick delivered $5 million US cash and granted Precipitate a 3% NSR on these non-core pieces of ground adjacent to their mine site. This next slide sort of shows you what the existing Pueblo Grande land package looked like. These red ellipses are the areas where Barrick had requested the deal to acquire those 100% for their infrastructure purposes. And so our land package now looks a little bit reduced. We still have all the ground in yellow, and Barrick is still working the earn-in agreement and spending $10 million on that. The areas in red here show these are areas that we now have a 3% NSR on ground that is essentially part now of one of the largest gold mines in the world. Elsewhere in the Dominican Republic, we've got our Wanda Herrera project. This is another project that is adjacent to a significant known mineralized resource. This is a project that is adjacent to a company called Goldquest Mining. Goldquest has a project called Romero that's currently sitting at about 2.5 or 3 million ounces gold equivalent, depending on how you calculate that and what grades you use. And that project continues, the project of Goldquest continues to have significant exploration potential for ongoing growth and expansion, but is also sitting at a feasibility stage where the project Romero is looking for an exploitation permit to allow it to continue to move forward with ongoing advancement. That project of Goldquest has been stalled a little bit, and so unfortunately, due to sort of local politics, if you will, and community relations, we've elected to sort of hold off on expenditures on that project. But as I'll show in the upcoming maps, this is a highly prospective land package adjacent to a known resource and in an area that's got significant upside potential. So this map shows a more close-up look at our relationship with Goldquest. This is Goldquest's ground in gray, and up at the north end, these two blue stars indicate their Romero resource, where, as I said before, they've got nearly 3 million ounces gold equivalent. The land package in yellow, again, is Precipitate. That's our land package. And the pink and red dots indicate known areas of mineralization or target areas where we've identified mineralization at surface, and in many cases also geophysical signatures as well. Red dots are the strongest or the most high priority zones. The pink are slightly less advanced. But as you can see, this is a property package that's got a lot of known targets. It's areas where we believe there could be continuation of mineralization from our land package onto Goldquest, and we think this has the potential to be a significant district scale land package. We're talking about 40 kilometers here from top to bottom, so this is a big area. The potential here for this entire district to host a significant mineralized zone. Moving on, this is a little tougher to see perhaps at this scale, but this is an indication of some of the sampling that's been done on both Gold Quest land package and Precipitates. And the reason I bring this map up is it really calls out and highlights the high grade nature of this district. You're getting double digit grades of grams per ton gold, double digit percentage of copper in samples all the way from the very top of this district to the bottom. Yet only a couple of known areas have been drilled to date. And on the case of Precipitate, we've only drilled primarily in the central core here, where you've got sort of the concentration of sort of purple dots at our Ginger Ridge zone. That's the area that we focused on the most. But subsequent to that drilling, we've done a significant amount of property-wide sampling and have delineated a number of new or emerging zones within this property package Precipitate that we think have the potential, again, to be drill targets and potentially host meaningful mineralization. So again, this is a project that is drill ready, it's drill permitted, in an area where we think there's significant upside potential at such time as we determine it's best to go back in and re-engage our work. I think it's also worth noting that we own drill rigs in the Dominican Republic. And at such time as we decide to sort of turn on the taps again and get active in the country, we would have drills at our disposal, and our drill costs are significantly reduced because of that. And that gives us a competitive advantage in terms of being able to start and continue on with drilling when we deem appropriate. And of course, our cash position makes that quite viable at any time as well. Moving on to Newfoundland, Canada. This is an area where over the last couple of years, we saw an opportunity to pivot from the Dominican Republic, where I should note all of our assets are owned 100%. There are no underlying option payments or work commitment obligations there. Those are projects that we can use, we can work at our discretion. Holding costs are quite minimal. But we saw an opportunity a couple of years ago to pivot and to diversify the portfolio with an asset outside of the Dominican Republic. And we identified this Mother Lode project as our first entree outside of the Dominican Republic, and picking up a project in a belt that we thought was highly prospective, underexplored, and provided an opportunity for us to move the needle on advancing a project to a drill stage quite rapidly. And that's in fact what happened. And of course, Newfoundland has been a very active jurisdiction in Canada, with a number of different junior companies and mid-tier companies exploring there over the last couple of years. Some significant investment injections by the likes of Eric Sprott, et cetera, really focused this area as a high priority for junior exploration and gold development. We're in the sort of the southeastern part of Newfoundland, not really where all the heart of the action, where the newfound golds of the world are exploring. But this is an area that we identified and liked in its own right for its geological makeup and underexplored nature, and the opportunity to make a significant discovery and acquire a significant sized land package. As you can see, there are a number of other operators that are exploring in the district, and so I think that sort of evidences the prospective nature of this area, and the fact that it's somewhere where you can get in, acquire ground, and do work quite promptly. We were lucky enough to consolidate a significant land package. It's about 16 kilometers from top to bottom of that area outlined in red, which is our Mother Lode project. This was a property that had never been consolidated to this degree before. This was held by a number of different landowners, and we were able to pull this all together with multiple underlying option agreements to pull this all together into one unified project for the first time ever. There were a number of historical known showings or areas of interest within the property. We've outlined those with red stars. The most sort of prominent of those was what we call the Mother Lode zone, which is sort of in the south central part of the land package. We identified that as a priority, but we liked the fact that there were multiple other known zones throughout the property that warranted follow-up and continued exploration. You can see here, this is kind of just a quick compilation map just to try to sort of, highlight the fact that we went in and we did airborne geophysics over the entire property package. We did geochemical work, sampling, and prospecting throughout the entire property package. That led us to identify key zones where we saw the combination of both geochemistry or surface mineralization in rock samples and soil samples, combined with geophysical signatures where we saw sort of hot spots from a geophysical survey standpoint. Any area where we saw those two data sets overlapping, we saw as priorities. So where you see green over top of red dots, those are kind of the most prospective zones. And as you can see, once again, in that sort of south central area, the mother lode zone again sort of stands out as a large, consistent, anomalous zone where both the geochemistry and the geophysics pointed us. And so that became an area where we went back in and decided that we were going to do some ground geophysics, more detailed geophysics, ground IP, looking for chargeability highs, which would indicate sort of the right kinds of geology subsurface. So yes, you see rock samples and outcropping at surface in some places, but what are we seeing subsurface that's been missed or overlooked by previous people walking around in this area? And so our geophysical survey was done sort of in the late summer, fall of last year. This is, again, a little bit technical, a bit of a cartoon, but in the inset photograph here, you can see this outcrop or this gossan, highly mineralized. There was a historic sample taken from that outcropping that graded 25 grams per ton gold. And so we knew this was an area of interest based on surface mineralization. What we wanted to see is, what are we seeing subsurface from ground IP? So we ran lines of chargeability system that then injects a charge into the ground and reads the response to that charge as it's injected into the ground. And what we saw here was the light pink and the slightly darker pink around it are sort of the chargeability highs, or the areas that we're sort of looking for. So these pink or light pink blobs are areas where we're getting the right kind of reading situated underneath this mineralized outcrop at surface. So that was encouraging to us. Looking at this sort of central core here, right through the middle, where we've got this black line, we look at that as a section or a slice of bread. You can see here again, what you've got here is as we get below surface, the chargeability readings increase, and that dark purple in this image shows the highest or elevated chargeability readings. And this, again, from a geological standpoint, this indicates pyrite content and higher probability of gold enrichment. So again, this high chargeability, or this dark purple, is an area that had never been drilled before. There had been some drilling in this area, but none of the drilling had intersected what we now have identified as the high chargeability readings at surface. So again, that gives us an opportunity to say, hey, we see a consistent, coherent, high chargeability blob, for lack of a better word in this instance, that's never been drilled. And the potential for that pyrite content to be carrying gold mineralization is the task that we're out to try to determine now. And so we've gone in and we've conducted a drill program late last year. That drill program we announced yesterday is now completed. We've drilled 2,700 meters of diamond drill core drilling within this target area, 12 holes off of 10 different drill pads, and are now in the process of awaiting lab analytics or assay results from those holes, hopefully sometime in the early part of next year. So news pending, catalyst pending, depending on the outcome and the analysis of those results. This just gives you a quick snapshot of some photographs from the Mother Lode project. You can see here we're seeing the right kind of alteration, veining, and stockwork that one looks for in terms of prospecting and exploring in the region. And we're quite excited about the potential for this zone to host some meaningful gold mineralization. In summary, about the Mother Lode project, we've got 2,700 meters of drilling that's been completed, or 12 holes. We've conducted extensive geophysics over the entire land package and more detailed ground IP within the Mother Lode zone specifically. The latest drilling has the potential to delineate a discovery, and drill assay results we expect to have coming in and being reported in Q1 of next year. So in summary, as it relates to Precipitate Gold, we again have the Mother Lode project. I think I've summarized that quite well. Hoping for meaningful drill results here in the short term. We're very encouraged by the turnaround time and the approval time in Newfoundland. We were able to go from a drill target to drill permit application to receipt of a drill permit all within about a 6 or 8 month turnaround time. So it's a very efficient place to do business. And so should we have some joy with the upcoming assay results, I think the plan would be that we could get back in there early in 2023 and continue on with additional drilling. Dominican Republic, this has really been our bread and butter for the last 10 or 12 years. We picked up our first ground, Wanda Herrera, in the Dominican Republic back in 2012. And we've really established ourselves as one of the primary and key exploration players in that country. Our Pueblo Grande project, we have a $10 million earn-in with Barrick Gold Corp, whereby Barrick can earn a 70% interest in the Pueblo Grande by spending $10 million US and delivering a pre-feasibility study within 6 years. We're now 2.5 years into that earn-in agreement. Barrick has conducted one drill program last year, and we're expecting another drill program to be contemplated, ideally between now and April of next year. And so it's wonderful to be in a position like this where we have a significant land package. That Pueblo Grande project likely is going to require a significant amount of expenditure in order to delineate and test multiple targets. And so having that covered or paid for or financed by a major company, I think allows us to mitigate our expenditures, mitigate share dilution, and kind of keep the company tight and well structured as that project sees work by someone else. Again, the outcome here is if Barrick delineates something meaningful enough to be meaningful for Barrick to execute on its 70% interest, the common thinking would be that Barrick, doesn't necessarily want to have Precipitate as a partner till the end of time. And I think there's the potential there that if there's something meaningful enough for Barrick, we may be able to contemplate some sort of a transaction that is mutually beneficial and certainly beneficial to Precipitate shareholders. Ponton project, we didn't talk much about for the sake of time, but this is a project that is located just about 25 kilometers away from Pueblo Grande in the same same geological belt, and is a project that, again, we own 100%. We have drill permits on it and a number of targets that we would be in a position to get back and drill once again, should we deem the timing right. Lastly, our Wanda Herrera project next to Gold Quest's Romero. This is a project that, again, that's situated next to a known resource deposit in an area that our neighbors are pushing forward to receive an important exploitation permit to continue on with not only advancing their deposit through the development stage, but also recommence ongoing exploration throughout their property package. We, of course, would intend to do the same. Again, multiple targets throughout a large land package that are drill ready and in most cases drill permitted. So we are not awaiting any permits as it relates to Precipitate. We just feel as if the landscape and the return on investment would be better for us at a time when our neighbors have a little bit more clarity in terms of the path forward. And lastly, we're sitting on $7 million in cash, or north of $7 million in cash Canadian. That's unallocated. We really don't have any underlying obligations. It's fully discretionary. And so not only are we in a position where we can re-engage our work programs and spend money on any of our existing property packages, but we're also in a position now where in a market where things have been so difficult for a lot of our peers, we are looking at what kinds of other opportunities, maybe they're distressed or maybe they've become available due to current market conditions, and a company with cash becomes a suitable partner, or synergies can be explored. So we're looking at new acquisitions, we're looking at possible M&A activity, we're looking at how we can leverage that capital into something accretive for Precipitate and its shareholders. And there's certainly no shortage of opportunities that have been coming in our door in that regard. So in terms of catalysts, mother lode assays are pending. Pueblo Grande will see an additional phase of work by Barrick. We're awaiting a permit for our neighbors, at our Wanda Herrera project to re-engage there. And at any time, should we determine one or more of these assets that we're looking at make sense for an acquisition, to execute on that as well. So with that, that's sort of the quick summary of Precipitate Gold and where we're at today. I hope that's been informative. I've got a couple of minutes here for Q&A. as Matt said at the beginning, there is an opportunity to reach out to me for a one-on-one meeting here through the platform. I'd be happy to make myself available for anybody that wants to do that. But in the meantime, I've got a few questions here, and so why don't I scroll through some of these questions and answer them while we've got a few minutes. And again, if anybody's got any questions they would like to pose, please post it in the question or chat feature, and I'll be more than happy to answer. What have we got here? So yeah, someone's pointed out that in the 1990s, Eric Sprott started his climb on the back of companies like you are presenting today. So yes, we think that there's significant investor upside in this space. I think it's been fairly depressed over the last year and a half or so, and we're starting to see that things like crypto have had a harsh reality check, and the inflationary environment that we're in now, I think, points towards a lot of upside for gold. And I think it starts oftentimes with the commodity itself, and then it often trickles down to the majors and the producers. And as markets continue to escalate, typically you'll see the real upside come from the penny stocks and the junior stocks, where you do have that potential for significant return on investment, and the likes of Eric Sprott have been the beneficiaries of that, certainly over the years and multiple cycles in our space. Another question here: you mentioned you were trading at cash value. What are the catalysts for a revaluation of Precipitate? Good question. I mean, I think there's a number of different mechanisms, as I sort of said there in the summary. One of them would certainly be a significant exploration or drilling result out of Barrick on our Pueblo Grande project. I mean, that's ground that is situated next to and an add-on or adjacent to one of the biggest mines in the world. If Barrick were to find an additional 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 million ounces to allow them to push out the lifespan of their Pueblo Viejo mining operation with additional mineralization in the neighborhood, I think that would be a significant catalyst for us. And Barrick is spending meaningful money each year under our earn-in agreement. Obviously, another catalyst here in the short term is our mother lode drilling. Should we get some joy from the assay lab there, I think there's the potential here to really move the needle in terms of valuation there. And again, the other part of it is the cash. I mean, how do we deploy this cash that we have in the way that is the most accretive to shareholders? We're being somewhat cautious with it right now, and recognizing that we're in a market where there's a lot of uncertainty, and the defensive nature of having cash is important. But should we enter into some sort of a transaction that leverages that cash into a new asset that maybe can drive the market cap, certainly we've got some irons in the fire that we're looking at in that regard as well. Another question, and I've got just a couple of minutes here. What are the key 2023 milestones for DR and mother lode? I think I've gone over that now. That question was probably posed earlier. I think that we've got multiple sort of irons in the fire with respect to drill results pending for mother lode, Barrick doing its work, and the ability to turn the key or get re-engaged on our other Dominican projects at any time, should the environment be right. And of course, looking at new acquisition possibilities. So I think all of those irons are in the fire now, and we could execute, or there could be execution on any of those at any time. Lastly here, the last question I see, unless anybody else wants to pose one, is does the $7 million in cash, is it sufficient for your 2023 initiatives? Absolutely. I mean, our G&A and overhead costs are minimal. So that cash in the treasury would get us through the better part of a couple of years, just kind of, chugging along on a G&A perspective. Obviously, the variable there is, how active we are with exploration and drilling expenditures and budgets. But, we would certainly be in a position here to, with $7 million in cash, I could see that getting us through the balance of 2023 and beyond, even with fairly aggressive work programs on one or more projects. Obviously, you don't want to deplete your treasury down to nothing. So we would always be on sort of on the lookout for an opportunity to top up the treasury should we be active with expenditures. But no, this is a significant amount of cash in this market environment that we think sets us apart and gives us that optionality to not only leverage our projects for value, but also to leverage that cash as an ability to position ourselves for upside potential in the near term here. So very pleased with how we are. I think I've answered all the existing questions. And on that note, I will turn it back over to the hosts to